I just want to thank you for your service at this time. With all of the political fighting that we have, no one can challenge that this is the greatest country that has been created. It would seem to me that for those who have succeeded, and those who hope and dream that they too can become middle class, to take care of their families, to have some savings, and to be able, after a good life's work, to retire with some degree of comfort. That whenever this nation is attacked by anybody, that regardless of those differences, that we would come together, black, white, whatever color, whatever religion, because it's through this dream and this hope that this country is as successful as it is. Most people, besides African Americans, come here because they are the cream of the crop. These are the people that are not satisfied with their own circumstances. They love their country, they love the culture and the language, but still they have the courage and the spirit to leave all of that behind. Many of them not knowing what life will be like in America. And of course, when African Americans were snatched from their parents and grandparents and families and communities in Africa, no one can deny that this type of treatment has never even been thought of, with the exception of the Holocaust, as to how people can be so inhuman to other human beings. And it wasn't just the physical torture that took place, but it was being stripped of your identity, stripped of your name, your songs, your history, your pride, your self-esteem, all of the things that our fellow Americans are able to create. You create in Israel, you tell stories about life in Ireland, and whatever you want to say, you can say, because there is some degree of substance. So what have we got except ourselves? What have we got except that no matter what tragedies we've had, from the cotton field to the battlefields, you can know that we will be there. Because as bad as things are, nobody wants to leave America. Everybody wants to leave. And so I believe with all of my heart that whenever our families are in danger, those who are able to make a sacrifice should. We know that not everyone can run up and get a rifle and go to get the guns. But like in every family, mom and dad and others, if you're lucky enough to have them, they play a role to keep that family together. That's what families, that's what communities, that's what countries all about. That's why it shocks me when we talk about a volunteer service. Volunteer? The family's in trouble and they're asking who's going to come up and defend her? No. I think that my draft bill was merely sending a message that during this time, everyone must sacrifice something. Everyone must put up. And because we don't have that system, we have to make it up to our veterans some kind of way. They're patriotic. They have served in Afghanistan and Iraq in a way that most of us never even knew. When you get ready to defend or attack, God gives you an adrenaline, a sense of this is the big one. and you're moving forward. How many of you that's had war experience can even imagine that taking any steps wherever you were, that could be the end of your life?
That's right.
It's not as though they got attack in the morning or attack at night. It's not as though that you know you've lost somebody and you're mourning their loss as you move forward for your country. But these soldiers never know from one second to the other when everything they dreamed and hoped for would be shattered. This body that God has given us has a very fragile brain. It functions well, but when you distort it by these torturous fears, that brain gives up on you. Fortunately, we have come a long way in science for post-traumatic stress, well, depression really is what it amounts to. But when you think about losing 6,000 lives, the number of people that have been wounded, the number of veterans that are unemployed, when you think of the fact that they lost some of them their homes and their pride, and as we all know who are veterans, there's a military world, and the fear is always in the real world out there. How are you going to make it? And if you lose your wives, your husbands, your kids, your job, shouldn't we do more to try to make that up? And that's why we're here today. We can't do too much for our veterans. They say something like 1 out of 5 veterans that are discharged has emotional disturbances that some of them don't even know that they have. And we don't have the ability to treat all of them. And so I really think that we should have a program, and I've introduced legislations that's supported by my colleagues. We've just been honored to have the Honorable Sanford Bishop, now, if you remember what happened when you were in the service, you got a lot of training in how to defend yourself and how to attack and hurt the enemy. Is that right?
That's right.
You got so much training that you didn't even have to think. When the time came, you were ready because the mind was conditioned for you to be able to fight for your country. What happens when you're discharged? Do they put the same time and effort in telling you about the fight for civilian life, the fight for a job? I was a high school dropout. I had more medals on my chest when I came out. I was 22 years old and ready to go.
Hey.
And they asked me, well, what do you want to do, Sergeant Rangel? What did you do? I said, I was an infantryman. You didn't do anything else? I said, I was a fire director specialist, 155 millimeter howitzers. He said, what else do you do? I said, I know how to hurt people.
Yeah.
And there it was.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for the GI Bill, I wouldn't be standing before you today. Let us all make some type of commitment that we will find somebody, even if we don't know who he or she is, to grab them and thank them for their service, and to tell them that even though all of America didn't make a sacrifice, that we know. That's why you're here this morning.